Good morning or evening, depending on where it is, where you are. Okay, I can see myself. I think we're live. I think the scheduling worked. Let's see if we can get everything else to work today, shall we? Welcome. I hope everyone is having a fabulous week. I'm Cheryll Miller. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in South Australia. And I'm creating today with some Stampin' Up product, mainly the beautiful gallery bundle. So I'm sort of just going to chat for a minute to see if anybody does come in. We are without a moderator today, so please excuse me if you do comment and I miss it. Now, if you are not a subscriber to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe. But if you are not and you want to comment, you will need to be logged in to your YouTube channel to be able to comment. And I think there's a bit of a delay. So if you try and comment, it'll ask you to, and you're not logged in, it will ask you. And then there's a bit of a delay before you can actually make a comment. We'll have to see if I can change that setting somewhere. But at the moment, that is the way it is. Okay, so I can't see anybody coming in just yet. Mind you, it's only 11:01. I haven't chatted for very long, have I? Let's go, while we're waiting, let's just go through a few things. There are some fabulous sales on at the moment in the Stampin' Up store if you want to go in and have a look. They have updated the last chance list and it is very, very interesting to have a look through. There's quite a lot of product discounted. Everything in the last chance list is only available while stocks last. They will not be reordering any of those products. So a lot of my favourites, including some that I'm using today, are in that last chance list, and I will let you know when we get to them which ones they are. But yeah, some great discounts. So be sure to go in and have a look at what is available. There is a link to my shop in the description below the video, I hope. That is, let me see if I can look over here. Hopefully I set that up right. This is all very new to me. So just having a little look. Yeah, there is a link there. Beautiful. And while I've got you here, I will also let you know that the Colour Inspiration Challenge that we created with last week is still running, and it will run until Monday. So you still have a few days. Let's have a look at that one. So it was this colour combo, which is Bubble Bath, Timid Tiger, a Zero Afternoon, Gorgeous Grape and Blueberry Bushel. Looks very, very bright here, but if you pop over to the Facebook group, there are some great samples by not only the designers but some people who have entered the challenge, which shows you how you can tone down those colours just by using them a little differently. So that is well worth popping over to the group and having a look. And if I do remember, I will pop the link to that up in the description after the live is finished. Hello Kerry, how are you? Central West New South Wales, oh lovely, lovely. I'm glad to see that someone's here, and I'm assuming that you can hear me okay. Always tricky to know whether I've got all the settings right. What else? I have an online class coming up at the end of August. I'm working with another very talented demonstrator in New South Wales, Fiona Fernandez from By Fee Handcrafts, and we are going to do an online class on the 31st of August in the afternoon in Australia, and we will be featuring the Kintsugi Inspirations, I think it's called. Should know the name, shouldn't I? Suite of products. So that is an afternoon of crafting with us live. The link is to the registration form, which has a lot more information on the day in there if you want to go in and have a look. We hope to have a few people crafting along with us, and then the creative content will be recorded, and anyone who does register and can't make it on the day will get access to that recorded content. Okay, I think we are, sound is good. Thank you so much, Kerry. All right, so seeing as Kerry's helped me out there and the sound is good, we will make a start. So let's head over to my desktop Now, I'm hoping after the bit of schmozzle last week where I had glowing hands, doesn't appear that I have glowing hands today, and I think I've fixed the focus. It looks like it. So, and I've also worked out how to zoom. I'll just open up that window. So I think I've worked out how to zoom in if I need to. Yes, it moves over a little bit, but I can zoom in a little bit if I need to. Okay, just going to put some light on. That's a bit better, and I think we're set to go. So this is the card that I'll be creating. As I mentioned, I am using the Gallery Blooms, the Gallery Brooms, sounds like me, the Gallery Blooms bundle, which is this gorgeous floral set, which does come with some dies, and we will be using the dies today. So I'll just be using this stamp set, and then I pulled out what I call my collage collection. So all my favourite stamps that I like to collage with. So first up is the Elements of Text. Now this one is the one that is in the last chance list and is on sale. So if you haven't got it, it is a fabulous stamp set, and it will stay in my collection, and I will continue to use it until Stampin' Up bring out something very similar. But yeah, one of my favourites. It's got text with uneven edges, which works really well, and then some splatter. I'll also be using the Textured Notes stamp set. So this is a great one for collaging. This one's fabulous, and even these leaves can be used for collaging as well. So that's a great set for collaging. And the other one is the sister set to the Gallery Blooms, is the Beautiful Motifs. And this is amazing. This can also be used really well in collaging. I'm not using that one today, but we are using this one. Now, my project today has been inspired by another fabulous paper artist. Her name is Juliana Michaels. She is not a Stampin' Up demonstrator. She's based in the United States, but she does a lot of beautiful mixed media type crafting, including card making and some scrapbooking. And I absolutely love her work, and I had a lovely browse through her blog the other day, and it inspired me to pull out the collage stamps and do a little bit of ink smooshing. The text in the background I picked up off one of her cards. So thank you very much, Juliana, not only for the inspiration, but for a just delightful afternoon spent browsing through her work. Her website is 17 Turtles. So I'm sure that most of you have probably heard of her. So this does involve some ink smooshing, so I will have to use the heat tool to dry it off in between. I haven't pre-done one today. So let's have a little look at what we are using. So I do have my supplies right here. So I've got some Fluid 100 watercolour paper. It does come in sheets of this size in the pack, and I have cut one down to be card front size. So I do have some supply list and cutting instructions, but the cutting instructions are so easy. So in Australia, I use as a standard first layer 14.3 by 10.8, sorry, by 10.5, by 10. Oh, let me get those out. My base layer is 14.3 down by 10. Gives you a nice layer to put on the front of your card. So it's what I call my first layer measurement. So I've cut that out of the Fluid 100 watercolour paper, but keep your little extra bits because we will colour those up to use on the inside of the card, like so. So that's just that strip, which I've coloured up afterwards to match the front of the card. You will need another piece. Let's just stamp our flowers. You won't use it all, but just because we're going to use the Stamparatus, it just fits in the Stamparatus a little bit better. Now, Fluid 100 watercolour paper is a little bit textured and can be a little bit difficult to stamp on sometimes. So what I do is I grab my cutting plates from my Stamp Cut and Boss machine, or your die cutting machine, whatever you're using, and a piece of tissue or waxed paper. This is the die cut release paper, and I pop it into here, put the paper on top. You can use photocopy paper as long as it doesn't have any printing on it, and pop it in and run it through a normal sandwich in your machine, and that flattens out the top side of the paper, which makes it still absorbent and great for watercolouring, but much smoother, which is a lot easier for stamping on. So that is what I did with both pieces before I started today. Don't lose your piece of card, Cheryl. Alright, so we'll put this one aside for the moment, and we're going to be working on these pieces here. So just when you go to use it, make sure you are using the smooth side. Now I have very worn cutting plates, so I can tell the back side because it does, I don't know if you can see that, it does have a lot of marks on it from the bottom plate, which is a bit grooved where I've done all my die cutting. So that will help me to remember which side to use. My background is peach pie ink. Just going to pop this up here so you can sort of see it until I get to this spritzing stage, and then I'll move it. But when I had a look at this after I'd finished, I thought it's a little dark. I loved the colour, but once I put the flowers on, I thought maybe there needs to be a little bit more contrast. So today I'm going to try and make it a little bit lighter. Let's see how we go with that. So I'm working on my glass mat today, because this makes it really quite easy. Now let me see if I can get this in the middle. So I'm just putting a little bit of ink onto the glass mat. A little bit, that looks like a lot, no wonder it was so dark. Grab my spritzer. I've just got water in my spritzer, and just give it a bit of a spritz. And if I add maybe a little bit more water, maybe that will make it lighter. So we end up with an inky puddle mess here. We'll start off with our piece of cardstock. So I'm taking the smoother side and I'm going to just pop it down into the ink. Now basically I'm working into a wet, from wet into dry, so you will get these lovely marks. So just keep pressing it down until you get what you like. Now I don't mind a few white spots here and there, but I am going to now dry that off and then pick up some more ink. Now it's not got any lighter, I think that wasn't going to happen, but maybe when I dry it off it will. So I've got my heat tool here and I'm just quickly going to dry it. I don't know how, I'm not quite sure how loud this is. Hopefully it's not too loud. Dry that off. Now I do have some paper towel here, and I do have some wet edges. I'm just going to pop those down on here just to take off any excess wetness. And then I'm going to add some, now that that's dry, when I put this back down in here I'll get additional marks that won't blend. They will just hopefully sit on top of that ink. But I'm going to add some more colour, more water to this. See if I can get a little bit. See, you get, it will either blend out or it will add some different marks in there. And just until you get what you like, basically. So I've got some extra marks and I will need to dry that off. I'll just set that aside for a minute. While we've got this here, we'll do those extra pieces. Now this piece I'm going to do anyway. I possibly won't use it, but while I've got the ink out, I may as well use it up rather than just wipe it up. So let's do this one. And this is good if you do this and then you want to add a sentiment over the top in a cardstock that coordinates. If you want to do some die cutting of some of your elements for your card out of this piece, it just gives you a piece that then coordinates with the rest of your card. Let's get the right side here. Now normally I would have all of my the scraps of fluid 100 watercolour paper out here with me. Well, I don't today, but I would not waste any of this ink I would use all my little scraps, because you end up with lots of scraps like this when you're making cards. So I would ink them all up with this juicy ink. I haven't got them out today, so we possibly just leave it. But I will dry these off now. Bear with me. I just get the wetness out of these strips. Same with this one. And see, these are a lot lighter. This is how I should have worked with more water. But I will just add a few more blotches around the place, and then these can sit and dry on their own for a minute. Now look at that, beautiful. So I'll just sit and let that dry up here. Same with this one, just add a few more little blotches. Look, beautiful. Pop that up there to let it dry, but I will need to have this one very dry. Now it is just as dark, if not darker, than the one I did earlier. So that plan didn't go very well, did it? Never mind. I have some spray here, and I'm just going to clean off my table with some paper towel. You could have used all of that ink. If I'd had my scraps out, I could have used it all. I'll just get rid of it. Clean that off, and we will dry this. Now I can see there's a few people watching who maybe aren't logged in to YouTube and can't comment. Which is fine, I can see that you're watching, so that's fabulous, welcome. So I was trying to make a lighter background, it didn't quite work. I need to keep my hand out of the camera. So we've got a nice dark one. So what I'm going to do with this one, which I didn't do in the other one, is give it a spritz with some water, mainly to try and lighten this up just a fraction. So I do have some water left in my spritzer. Hello Brenda, welcome back. Lovely to see you here. And Checkmate, what? It's hard when your name isn't what your real name is, so it's hard to say hello, but hello and welcome. Right, so we're going to try and lighten this by grabbing some water, and I want quite large drops, so I'm just spritzing into my hand and throwing it down, and then that should hopefully pick up some of the ink and make it a little lighter. So you can see all the little splotches there. Just let me get my trusty hand towel again. So I'm using my glass mat. Quite often though I'll also pull out my the brownie coloured craft mats. They work well too. Patty. Hello Patty. Thank you for letting us know your name. That's lovely. That's my nickname, it's Patty, with an I. That's what my husband calls me. All right, now I need some new paper towel, not that yucky old one, and I'm going to pull that ink up and out of the Now I'm going to stamp on this, so it really needs to be very dry. I'm not embossing on it this time, which I did last time. That just adds a little bit more, just pulls the colour out a little bit from the background, gives it a little bit more texture. All right, I will just quickly dry that. Excuse the noise again. With my lizard hands. What's the weather like in Canada? I know someone who's visiting Canada at the moment. I guess Canada's a little bit like Australia, and you get a wide variety of weather across the country. All right. Okay, I'm going to add some, I'll just bring the card in again. I'm going to add some moodiness around the edge, and I'm actually going to ink blend with basic grey, which is quite a heavy colour, so I'll need to be a little bit careful. And I like to work off a block. Mainly because I'm sometimes very heavy-handed with my ink blending. I get very excited, and I'm really worried that I'm going to damage the top of my soft ink pad surface. So for me it is easier just to use a block. You can, or I could have just put ink onto the glass mat. And then I'm just going to very lightly, to start with, bring that ink in and around. I'm willing myself to work lightly. I have a very bad habit of just going in like a bull at a gate. Impatience. And just start off the page and then just bring it on very lightly to start with. See, that's getting a bit of a shadow around the edge. And then we can make it a little bit heavier to give it that grungy look. Like so. And we can always add more if we want to later. That gives me a bit of a feel on my card. Put that out of the road. And this off again. Okay, and now we can go on to our collage stamping. So I'm going to use my basic green. I have just re-inked this, so I'm hoping it's not going to be too heavy-handed, but I will bring in some scrap paper to work on. Run out of grid paper, so I'm just going to bring in a bit of scrap copy paper at the moment, just because I want to be able to stamp off if I need to. I'm using basic grey, and we'll start off with the text stamps, I think. So the text ones are in this Element of Text stamp set. This is the one that is on sale in the Last Chance list. I must have my stamps already out. I do. And we're going to use 2 of the different text. Now, I'm sorry about the clunking. That's the only downside of the glass mat, is it's very loud. All right, I have popped these onto my block so that hopefully they are straight. Just going to have a quick look here. So sometimes the index image isn't quite right, so I do like to make sure that I like my text to be straight. That's maybe it needs to have a little bit of adjusting. Right. Actually, we might start with our flower. So I have put some explanation here. I have put my flowers up on top, so you don't really need them underneath. However, I am going to put one underneath. If you are slightly off when you mount it, it creates a little bit of shadow, and it also gives me an idea of where to put my my other collage elements. So I've got my Stamparatus, which is it's no longer in production, but most of us have some sort of stamp positioner of some sort, and we're just going to pop this somewhere in the middle. something like that. Just a little bit more over. All right, and I'm going to stamp with the basic grey. I'm just going to hold that in place, ink this up. And I could have just stamped with a block, however, because I'm working on the Fluid 100 watercolour paper, I do, and the larger stamp, I do like to be able to stamp again if I slightly miss anywhere. So, just a little bit more ink. Okay, so that's where my flower is going to sit up over the top. That will give me an idea of where to stamp my collage images. So let's move on now to the text. So I'm just going to work straight on here. It's a nice soft platform to work on. I'll ink this up. Now I'm going to see how heavy this is, because I may want to stamp off, seeing as I've just re-inked. Let's have a little look. It's not too bad actually. I think I'll just leave that one full strength. We might stamp off the next one. The Master of Collage Cards. Not sure about that. I really like collage cards because it doesn't really matter if you get something wrong. You can cover it over. Now I have to remember to line up the top and not the index image. And we'll just put this down. It doesn't matter if you misstamp your collage images, because you're going to cover most of it over anyway with something else. Now I'm going to bring this one in, and they'll all end up a little bit different. Just see how dark this one is. This is it's upside, no, it's up the right way. I think I'll stamp this one full strength as well. And we'll do another one of these in here. And do we need another one? No, we've got quite a bit of text going on. I think that'll be fine. Just put these over the road. Next up, we've got the beautiful motifs. That's this one. I'm going to use this more delicate image. So this one does come up a little bit lighter, I believe. Well, it's still quite dark. I think we might stamp that off. So let's give it a light stamp off, and here. Pop one up here. That might do for that. I have to learn to stop. I have a bad issue of going too far all the time. I've got textured notes as well. Now textured notes has a couple of different ones. This has this raffia look one, which I'm going to use in the background. It also has this lovely round raffia type thing, which I'm going to do in Peach Pie. Now this is still quite dark, so I'm not sure how well it'll come out, but we will. I did re-ink my Peach Pie as well, so hopefully. Let's see how dark this one is now. Oh, see how dark that is? It was nowhere near that dark yesterday, so we will stamp that one off as well. Okay, thinking. I'm just thinking where my text, I keep thinking I'm not stamping over the flowers, but we can. See, it's slightly different shape or texture than the text or the, so it just adds a little bit of extra texture. Doesn't matter what it all looks like underneath, because it's going to get covered over with those other beautiful flowers. Now I think we can close this up and move on to our Peach Pie. Now am just going to dry that quickly with my heat tool. You're new to card making, Patty. Ah, yes, yes. If you do junk journals, then yes, this is definitely up your alley. Okay, we've got this round one and we're going to use peach pie ink. I'm just going to test it over here because it's much darker than the one I did yesterday. So let us add some round shape now to the collage. Oh yes, much better. Okay, and the reason I dried that off is because I didn't want to pick up any of the black ink and put it on my ink pad. So now we'll put one up in this corner. Yes, just gives a different shape, which is lovely. All right, getting a collection of mess over here. And now we need to add a contrast colour, and I'm going to use Azure Afternoon Blue. Once I add it onto the orange, it does take on a very green sort of feel, a moody green. And to do that, I'm going to use the splatters, which are also in that elements of text. And I'm just going to move my keyboard up out of the road because I'm going to cut us off or something. Here I can see that because everything's going on the keyboard, and I'll cut the video off for sure. All right. This is a great long one, but you have to be really careful because it's longer. It wriggles and you get the edge. I did it on this one and I had to blend it out and then stamp over the top again because I was a bit not careful enough. So if I'm going to use this one, I have to be really careful. I don't think I re-inked this one. Nope. So we'll be really careful. We'll add some splatter. And then we'll take the different shaped splatter, a little smaller splatter, go this way. Oh yes. Like that. All right, I'm quite liking that. Quite liking that. Okay, we'll put this away for the moment. And do I need any more around the edge? I'm not quite sure. We'll decide on that in a minute. We'll work on our flower to go on top while we do that. Now, just going to bring this back in because I quite like the spongy surface to stamp with. Well, actually we will need the Stamparatus anyway, won't we? Have to find where I put the plate. Here it is. We are going to stamp this again onto that other piece of Fluid 100 watercolor paper. So this is the smooth side, this is the messy side that was towards the back of the emboss machine, Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine plates when I ran it through. The die cutting machine, Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is such a mouthful. So the reason that I've left it large is it's a lot easier to position your stamp here. I'm going to cut, I'm just going to trim a little bit off so I'm not wasting so much card. So I've got a trimmer here. A bit better. Yes. And we are going to die cut this, so it's not, the positioning isn't integral. I just like to have it over towards this edge. Okay, I'm going to stamp this with Memento. Now we are going to watercolor this with watercolor pencils, and you could use StazOn ink. However, StazOn ink is quite a strong solvent ink, and I don't really like to use the StazOn on my photopolymer stamps if I can help it. 'It. 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 if you dry it after you've stamped it, holds its outline well enough, if as long as you're not going to do too much intense watercolouring. And we're not, we're just colouring a flower. So I'm just using this, and because this is a grungy card, even if the ink or the water, when we apply it, does pick up some of the black, it just gives it that extra moody feel. Probably wouldn't work very well if I was doing a light coloured card. And it's, you know, it's not so much the StazOn ink that worries me with the photopolymer stamps, it's the cleaner, the StazOn cleaner. I think if you were happy to just use the StazOn and then clean it off with a regular stamp cleaner, not the solvent-based cleaner, it'd probably work okay. But for today, we're using Memento. So Memento is not a waterproof ink. Memento is a dye ink. If you have an old archival ink, that works quite well too, because that is, while not fully waterproof, it's pretty waterproof, especially after it's dried. So I'm just making this nice and dark. And there we go. Actually, I'll just get that a little bit more of a press there. And there we go. Beautiful. Let's get rid of this. And get colouring. So now I will dry that with the heat tool to make sure that it is very dry and less chance of running when I apply my water. I've reset the focus, so I had some issues last week where it wasn't focusing properly. Set focus. I've refocused, but I have to remember to not get my hands right under the camera because they are not pretty. To colour, we're going to use some watercolour pencils. So Stampin' Up have 2 sets of watercolour pencils. If you don't have watercolour pencils, you can use the dye ink to colour with, and it's just a matter of putting it on a block or even putting a little bit of ink down on your glass mat and then picking it up with a with your paintbrush. But I have the watercolour pencils here. Now I have both sets of pencils all mixed in together in these trays, but I did look it up, and the colours that I'm using do all come in set number 1. So to continue with the theme of the colouring of the front of the card, we're using a blue. So I will use Pacific Point. That's a really old colour. There is Balmy Blue as well, but in the set number 1 it's just called blue. I'll use Pacific Point here. We will need some warm colours. There is no peach pie in here, so I will use Pumpkin Pie and Daffodil Delight for my yellow. We will need an aqua painter or a paintbrush of some sort, and when I'm doing these quick little jobs, in particular, I don't tend to put water in my brush, so you could use a regular paintbrush as well. I just have some water to hand here. I want to be able to control the water much more than I can sometimes with the water brush. So I'll just make sure that's nice and clean. I've got some little squares of paper towel here, and we will start with the orange, which is the pumpkin pie or whatever orange colour. If you have, you know, regular watercolours, great. Anything really works to watercolour with. These pencils are not quite nice and soft, and I'm just going to take the easy way and just colour my image in with a pencil first. So I'm starting in the base of the petals. I will want some of the a little bit of white. I like to have a little bit of white area just in the edges of the petals. Now I am in no way an artist when it comes to colouring. I probably do everything wrong, but you know, It's all a matter of how it comes out in the end and whether you're happy with it. My favourite thing is inks and colouring and mixing them up and seeing how they turn out, experimenting. So I sort of have this attitude that it doesn't really matter. What you do and how it turns out, as long as you're happy with it. And I know that can sometimes be tough because we're all our worst critics, but considering I'm not really a relaxed sort of person, I'm a little bit relaxed when it comes to colouring. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe that's why I like it. So I've just added some orange in, and I'm going to colour that up straight away. So I'll just pick up a little bit of ink with my wet out of the jar, and I'm just going to spread that ink around. Now I will tell you that when I'm not live, I do tend to relax into this and take a bit of time. I'm working a bit quicker today because I'm very wary of the time. Now can you see that it's still not really picking up the black, even though I'm going over it? There's probably, let me see if I can make this focus. See, there's a little bit of black on the end of the brush, but not enough that it's going to affect the colour too much. And I quite like that extra depth it gives anyway to what is quite a grungy looking card, really. Okay, so now I'm going to just blend those edges a little bit. If I had been using a rubber stamp, I may have used Stays On, because I did pull it out originally. But as soon as I opened the stamp set, I went, oh, that's right, this one is a photopolymer stamp. I didn't use it. Now, while that's a little bit wet, I'm going to add just a little bit of extra depth in the base of the leaves. So, okay, you can see it's picked a little bit of the black up here where that ink was quite strong, but I quite like the depth that it gives to the image. I'm going to dry this off before I work on my next colours. And they will be the centre of the flowers, which I'm going to do in yellow. Now the Stampin' Up watercolour pencils are quite creamy. They almost remind me a little bit of Prisma pencils, and they can see they've gone over the black and made it a slightly different colour, but once we add the water, that will take the watercolour off the top. It'll also blend a little bit with the yellow, but it does. If I can just let me practice with my zooming, shall we? Look at that. Okay, is that a bit better? Can you see how doing that takes the colour off the top and makes that black strong again? Alright. Now, I could have gone ahead and painted those leaves green, but I wanted to use the same colours that I'd used in the collage part of the card, which were the Azure Afternoon, or the blue, the bright blue, and the orangey yellow sort of tones. So I'm going to use those two, which when you mix them do make a green, but it'll be a nice soft muted green. So we'll start with our yellow and we'll add that into the leaves. See, this isn't very precise colouring, it's just laying some colour down really. So now we've got yellow leaves. Now I'm going to add the blue in over the top. And even there you can see it's turned green because I've mixed them together. And relaxing to watch someone else colour, Brenda? Yeah, that's do you, when you sit and watch videos though, do you just want to itch to get into the craft room? Whenever I watch a video I just itch to get into the craft room. So I'm very fortunate that I usually watch them on my big computer screen, which is here in front of me. So I'm fortunate that I can sit here at my craft desk, and if I get the urge to colour while I'm watching someone, I can, even if I'm not doing exactly the same thing. Still, my hands just itch to create. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of water and mix that together. It's really no fuss, no stressing, it's just mixing the colours together. And then you really do have a green, but it's a much more natural green because it's a mixture of the two colours rather than just a straight green. So I'm just going to bring this one in. My flowers seem to be a bit more muted than my other one, and I'm not quite sure why. I may have used a different pencil because all of the pencils can be slightly different. So I'm just going to, this is dry now. Because my background is so bright, I think I need a little bit more oomph in my petals. Oh, are you working on your card at the moment, Brenda? Thank you, Patty. Are you working on your next card? And are you the sort of girl that makes multiples of your cards, or do you just do one? And then that's it. It's a unique work of art and you don't do another one. I usually end up doing more than one, but that's because I'm creating 4 different projects and events. So I always usually end up doing a sample or then something that's slightly different. All right, so that's just brightened those petals up a little bit more. And now we're going to die cut it, but if I die cut it with the die that goes with this, which is this one here, it doesn't cut it right to the image, so we end up with a white edge. In this instance, don't think that this card is going to suit a white edge because of the grungy feel. So I'm actually going to quickly dry that and then colour around the edge with some yellow. Now I don't have peach pie, so I can't do that orangey yellow colour. But what I'll do is colour up with the yellow, and then what I'm hoping is that when I colour around the edge, it will pick up a little bit of the black and give that a you know, that slightly more shaded look. I'm just adding the colour in. It doesn't have to be very much because the border around the edge is quite fine. Doesn't have to even be neat because we are going to give it a little lick over with the brush. Missed a petal there. Pick up some water, take the excess off, and then just blend that out. So it's an easy process. We're just hopefully not be too bright. So the trick here is to not add too much water because you will end up with a little bit of bleeding like I have there. So take your excess off on your towel, your paper towel, before you get too enthusiastic like I did there. Now I'm just going to try and fix that where it's bleeding just by picking the ink up a fraction. I'm slightly off screen here, the trouble with zooming. Thank you for popping in, Patty. Thank you very much. You only make one card, so each card, Brenda, is a little work of art. Yeah. If I wasn't creating for projects all the time, for different, things, then I would probably be exactly the same. Now, I want to add some more yellow in here. I don't really want to add this to the wet card, so I'm going to pick up the colour off the end of my brush. Okay, I think that's enough. Dry this and then I will die cut it. Oh, lovely, Brenda. If you do recreate this card, I would love to see it. I think that's dry enough to die cut. So we'll pop this on here. I'm going to grab a little bit of my repositionable tape just to hold this in place. We'll line it up. And then I must remember to unzoom this before I go away. Let's do that now before I come back. Let's unzoom. Unzoom? Is there such a word even? Right. Now make it focus again. Right. Let's go ahead and die cut this. Oops. I won't bring my machine in, I'll just do it off to the side here. And there we go. So I've got this piece left, which I can now, I'll just trim that off and use it for something else. Where's my background? Okay. All right, so now when we put this over here, just going, I can see whether I need any more ink blending around the edge. I think I do. Where's my card? Let's pop it on here. I've got basic grey for my card base, so a nice dark one. I don't think I need any more ink blending. It's not quite as heavy as this one, but this one I had to add more to cover up my boo-boo at the edge. So we'll leave this one as it is, I think. Not add anything else. And I'm going to put this onto the card front. Actually, I've missed a step, so we'll do that before we glue everything together. So in one of Juliana's cards, she had this really interesting little thing that she did where she added her words into the background. And I quite like that, so let's do that. And I've pulled out just a note, and that comes from the Beautiful Motifs stamp set. I'm going to stamp this on with the basic grey, which is over here. Let's do a little tester. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we just want to add this in different places around the edge of the card. So one, and then stamp it again, stamped off. So you can see what it is, but you sort of can't. Do one in here, and then one stamped off. We'll do one down over this yellow, and then we'll one in here. Now I'm leaving this part spare because in this card today, I'm actually going to add a sentiment onto there. I didn't do it for my other card, but for this one I will. Just a note. Do we need any more? I think that's enough. I think that's plenty. So doesn't that make a difference, just adding those words in? I think it does. All right, now we can put that onto our card front. You have, Brenda. That's lovely. Lovely to hear. Is that when I was doing the lives before? Seems like such a long time ago. All right, grab some glue. You can use whatever glue you like. I'm going to use my good old favourite, liquid glue. That's probably a little much, but it does need to get some good grip here. So I'm just going to turn this over. Give it a good press. And then we can glue the flowers on with dimensionals so that they sit up. And then that stamped flower underneath will just create a very faint shadow type look. I'll put the lid back on this one and grab my flowers. Put some dimensionals on the back. Oh, look, now I can see a piece that we've forgotten to pop out here. I use a lot of dimensionals. And I know that some people don't. Will this one fit in here? And then we'll just need one for in here, but I'll need a small one. Just put a few more around the place. And I know you probably don't really need this many, but Brenda, I don't know about you, but when I'm making these cards that take so long and are filled with my creativeness, I like to make sure that there are no saggy bits and that they're going to stay together for a long time. Thank you, Brenda. I'm so glad you girls came in. It's always nicer to have someone to chat with. Right, let's pop this down so that it sits over the top, like so. Now, I meant to get some, just bear with me for a second. But I don't think I have any here. I meant to grab some black cardstock. So bear with me for 2 seconds while I go and get some. Just let me fiddle with my, have to take my microphone off, can't walk away with that on. Pull the whole shebang down. Just like that. I forgot I had my microphone attached to my belt so that I don't trip over all the leads. Everything went crashing anyway. Alright, we're still here, we're still on, the phone's still in the right place. Okay, so let's do a little bit of embossing. Scrap. And I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to do, I can do Thinking of You or Hello. I think I might do Thinking of You. If I can find it. Thinking of You. I need a little block. This one will do. A not so little block. We'll need to give that a little bit of a dust off. Ink that up. Now, I'm going to do 2. I have a really bad habit of doing my embossed sentiments, or any sentiments really, and then mucking it up and having to pull all the stuff back out again to fix it. So I usually do 2, which quite often means that I end up with a great stash of sentiments. And we'll find my, can't find them, tweezers. I'm going to trim these quite close, so I'm not going to worry too much about the little dots. Can you hear my chickens? I can remember now, whenever I used to go live before, my chickens would always go off while I was live. It's like they had a sixth sense. Well, I can only see one dog, so maybe the dogs are down there. Maybe one of the dogs are down there. Grab a pair of scissors, and I am just going to trim this out in a little rectangle. We'll choose which one to use. Doesn't really matter, they're both much of a muchness. I think we may have a marauding crow, and that is why they go off every now and then. So just a note, and Thinking of You sort of go together quite well, don't they? We're just going to pop that down in there with a couple of small dimensionals. I could actually use my black ones, which I do have out here somewhere. That's a good idea, isn't it? Let's use the black ones. Don't get used anywhere near often enough now. Leave a bit of a gap for the stem. See me, I'm off screen again, aren't I? When I adjusted the zoom, it's changed the position of the camera. Note to self. And there we go. Now, how long have I been on? I've been on for an hour, so I won't do the inside, but I will show you what I did with the other one. So move this out of the road. Right, what a mess. What a mess. Okay. So with this one, I did one of those strips. Oh, there they are. Yeah. And I just stamped again and coloured again and added some of the elements that I used on the outside and glued that strip onto the inside of the card. Just makes a nice little continuity, bringing the same design to the inside. And so I'll just do the same on there. I've got my white piece cut to that same inside layer, trim that off, stamp that up and trim it off, and that will go on the inside. So that is my collage card, inspired by Juliana. Thank you, Juliana. That's the one that I did earlier. This is the one I did today. I quite like it with the little sentiment down in the bottom there. Thank you very, very much, Brenda. I'm just going to come back to my face, which I also forget to do all the time, so I can say goodbye. It's going to let me. It is going to let me. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your company today, Brenda and Patty earlier. Lovely, always lovely to have someone to chat to when you're live. I can see there's quite a few other people watching, but if you are not logged into YouTube, you can't comment, unfortunately. So that's just one of the things. Just for those of you who weren't on right at the start, remember that there is that great last chance sale on, so pop in and have a look. There's quite a lot of things that are going to, once they are out of stock, they will not be returning into stock, so they're all on a sale in the last chance list in the Stampin' Up store. And a reminder that I have an online class with the amazing Fiona Fernandez from New South Wales at the end of the month, on the 31st of August, and we are going to be focusing on the Kintsugi Inspirations Suite collection, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I have put a link in the video below if you want more information, or in the registration form there's a whole heap of information, and then you can register through there as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and I will see you again next week, where I'm sure this will all get much easier. Thank you so much. Bye, Brenda.